entitled Mother Refuses to Pay After Her Son Breaks My Parents' Fence. Act 1. A Song of Fences and Footballs. So for a bit of backstory, my parents sometimes ask me or my siblings to watch the house while they are gone because they do not want to leave the dogs alone for an extended period of time. Usually my youngest sibling does it because she still lives at home, but she had to go to her friend's party sleepover. As a result, my parents asked if I had time, and given I did not have to work today, and I only have one shitty class that I can skip without any real trouble, I obliged. My parents live in a large village essentially, one that gives you the illusion of rural, but in reality it is a 5 to 10 minute drive from several bigger towns and a city, one of those villages you want to leave as a 20-year-old, but you want to return to the moment you have your own children. There is barely any crime. Everyone knows everyone. It is extremely calm, etc. However, it has one issue. One of the larger towns close to the village is sort of notorious for scummy people. It is one of those towns that constantly manages to fuck up its budget, and a good third of its population are lazy asses and so on. It's like a giant pimple on an otherwise blemishless area. As a result, when people from said town manage to get some money, they have a tendency to move to the village my parents live in. Local government makes this nice and difficult for them on the down low, but they can't stop it all. And as expected, they bring their attitude with them. Our entitled mother and her devil spawn in this great saga are from said town. Cast: me, the Wizard of Oz. EK, entitled kid. EM, entitled mother. ED, entitled dad. N, neighbor. So I am sitting in the garden, minding my own business, scrolling some news sites, messaging some friends, enjoying the nice weather, which is interrupted by the sound of a football, a soccer ball, for those who imagine I mean hand egg or pussy rugby, being shot against my parents' house and the neighbor's house. We have this carport area between the two houses, which is roomy and makes sure you don't lose your ball all the time, so my parents generally allow kids to use it when they are at work. So this continues for a bit, and before long, the ball shoots right over the fence in the back of our yard, which I frankly did not notice as I was on my phone. However, I am quickly interrupted by the dog growling, extremely big mixed German and Belgian Shepherd, followed by the loud crack of wood and a thump from something large falling down. Well, I see the kid from two houses further falling down and my dog about to charge, so I put my phone on the table, grab the dog by its collar, and put it inside. In the meantime, the kid is already in the yard grabbing his ball and sprinting back to the broken fence. The fence is about 1.80 meters tall, made of wooden planks, hence it is not exactly made to withstand 13-year-old overweight kids climbing on it. The kid attempts to climb back over, cracking another plank at the bottom in his escape attempt, before I walk over and grab him by the back of his shirt collar. Me: and where do you think you are going? EK: let me go. Let me go, me. I don't think so. You just broke the fence, so you can either calm down and we go to your house to explain what happened, or I call the police. At this point, the kid starts flailing trying to get himself loose. That is, until he turns around and looks at me. Now, I am 6'5", 6'6", in very good physical shape, and I have permanent resting dipshit face, so he quickly stopped. At this point, I grabbed the key from my pocket and opened the yard door to walk over to his house, with the kid still firmly by his shirt collar. As we reach the door, I knock on it, and am greeted by the sound of a yelling woman behind the closed door, talking about how the kid has a key, and now she has to get up, etc. But eventually, the door opened, and at this point from the corner of my eye, I could already see my neighbor standing behind his living room window, arms crossed, shaking his head. Me? Hello, Miss You? Let go of my boy right now. What is wrong with you? I let go primarily because I was shocked about her reaction. The kid starts sobbing like a 5-year-old and runs inside. How dare you touch my son? Me: well, if you would stop yelling and let me explain. I am not yelling. Note of the OP, she was yelling. Me: right. Regardless, your son just broke my parents' fence. Try. And that gives you the right to manhandle my son? Me: I did not manhandle your son. I grabbed the collar of his shirt because he was trying to run away after he broke the fence. Now you can either calm down, and we can come to an agreement how to handle this, or I can call the police and have them deal with it. At this point, she seemed to calm down a bit more, especially after I mentioned the word police. EM. Right, so it is probably not that bad. She calls over her son, apparently having fixed his sadness, as he appears again stuffing his face with candy. EM. Say sorry to the neighbor. EK. Sorry. And he bolts off again, not even giving me a chance to reply. EM. Well, with that out of the way. She attempts to close her door, but I quickly shake off my shock and put my foot in the door, pushing the door open again, and at this point raising my voice substantially. Me. Excuse me? Your son broke the fence. It's all fine and dandy. He gave a half-assed apology on your orders, but that still leaves the fact he just broke a €200 wooden fence that will need to be replaced. EM. My son said sorry, and that is the end of it. At this point, the neighbor has opened his door, leaning against his doorpost to listen in, as his eyes are summoning a hurricane by the sheer amount of rolling they are doing. Just a little note, he dislikes them a lot. He has had a lot of problems with them ever since they moved in. Once again, our EM attempts to close the door on me, but I still have my foot in the doorway, so all she is doing is giving my toes a thrashing. Me? Look, this is the last time Her hulking five muscle mass of a husband appears now, visibly upset, annoyed. Every muscle within his noodle arms straining, his balding head glistening in the sun, peeking through the door, opening though slightly obscured by the 3 strands of hair combed over his head from the side as his enormous shape looks up at his taller wife. ED. And what is the problem here? EM. He is yelling at me and manhandled our son. ED. I will get you, you asshole. The door swings open, and as you may imagine, I am just shaking on my legs. This pure, mighty example of masculinity threatening to do me harm. Gosh, I have never been so terrified in my life. Me. Look, dude, I didn't do jack shit to your son, and the only one who has been yelling this entire time is your wife. Now your son broke my parents' fence, so you can either get it repaired or give me the money to buy a new one, and pay me for the time it takes to replace it. I wouldn't have charged the labor costs, but given they were being dicks, so can I, or we can get the police involved. ED. You have no proof of what happened, so go fix it yourself, asshole. And if I ever Neighbor. I saw everything. Your son broke the fence and tried to run away. Also, your wife just assaulted the neighbor with the door. You can clearly spot a devious smirk on the neighbor's face. He likely did not see anything, but like I said, he absolutely hates them. And this was him taking revenge, I think. At the same time, I can see EM and ED visibly losing all the bravado they had left. Me. So, as I was saying, the fence cost €200 when my parents purchased it, add another 50 for the time it takes me to replace it, and we all walk away from this. Added to that, if you threaten me again, I will just have to defend myself, won't I? At this point, I was honestly sort of hoping he would lose his shit and attack me, 'cause you have reasonable cause to defend yourself in this case, and honestly, I don't handle threats very well, and I have quite a temperament myself, so you may imagine I was seething at this point. But of course he backed off. He told me he'd get me the money tomorrow. I reminded him if I or my parents did not get it before tomorrow evening, I would be sure to call the police. Also, I informed them their kid was no longer allowed to play on our property, the carport. I thanked my neighbor and returned to the yard to scroll on my phone, make this post, and laugh about this stupid ordeal. Update 2. Act 2, A Clash of Dads cast. Me, the Witch King of Angmar, formerly known as the Wizard of Oz, Maryland. My dad so. The Witch Dad of Angmar, ED. A very tough bank clerk, EM. The Platinum Witch, N. Saruman the Cranky, my neighbor. The day had passed without any real excitement, apart from the lords of the fortress returning, my parents. It went from morning to afternoon, and soon the daylight was starting to fade. It was nearing dinner time, so basically I had already informed my parents as to what happened on the phone. I chose to explain it again in further detail when they got home. I showed them the fence, and my dad was unhappy to say the least. Like I said, there is some history there already, and these neighbors in question have been nothing but an annoyance to the entire street. But it seemed this time, they took it a step too far in my dad's book. Regardless, I explained to him they agreed to pay up for the fence before the evening, so he should expect them to be at the door any time, with the €250 agreed upon, which was honestly the only thing that stopped him from going over there himself and giving them a piece of his mind. Lo and behold, at the last possible moment, when I was already ready to call the police, Dumb and Dumber decided to show up, so my dad opens the door with me right behind him. MD. So, finally decided to show up? Yeah, we are here to talk about what happened. How dare you think your son can talk like that to us? Me. See. No, you are here to pay for the damages to my fence. Beside that, I want absolutely nothing to do with you people. It was at this point yet again. My knees nearly gave out as her husband appeared from behind her, his shape sculpted by the gods enough to intimidate even a Spartan in the days of Leonidas, the last rays of sunshine glittering on his freshly polished head where the last hairs were losing the battle against his expanding scalp. But no, three. Three were holding their ground. Their utter defiance to his baldness both inspiring and, yes, intimidating. They lay over his head, firmly kept in place by copious amounts of the hair gel they used in the days of yore. I think it was the shiny stuff Elvis used to use. His gaze angered, his expression sour, his breath calm and paced. Ed. And what is that supposed to mean? MD. That I want you to pay for the damages your son did to my fence, and then I want to go back to not speaking to you. Again, it may sound harsh, but like I said, not the first rodeo with these people. How dare you? We are here to talk about how rude your son was. Me. Was I rude before or after you yelled at me and slammed the door against my foot? Or perhaps when your husband made his hilarious attempt to threaten me? You should have seen the dude's face as he was muttering to come up with some sort of smart comeback. It was also at this point that my neighbor walked over to our front lawn, peeking over the hedge, about 150 centimeters tall, surrounding the front lawn. MD. Look, are you going to pay for the damages, or are we just going to have to call the police? I am in no mood to deal with you people any longer. Then I am absolutely forced to deal with you. No, first we want your son to apologize for how he behaved. Me. Could you please stop yelling? We have neighbors, you know? C being rude again. ED. You better tone down the attitude. At this point, I am just done with these people. I am certainly not going to say sorry for. I am not sure what I was supposed to say sorry for in the first place. So I grab my phone and start going through the numbers, since the non-emergency police line is somewhere saved when you buy the phone most of the time. Me. Right. I am calling the police. We will just have them deal with it. MD. Good idea. Now you people get the hell off my front lawn. We'll have the police deal with this. What? No. Ugh. Just give him the money, ED. I could see ED's bravado disappear once again. It was like he was deflating, for the lack of a better word. At this point, he just walked over to my dad, pulled the money from his pocket, and handed it to him. MD. Was that truly so hard? My neighbor has the brightest, most fuck you-esque smile on his face and yells over N. Sure seems like it was. Some people just don't know how to behave. I could see EM keeping herself back from absolutely blowing up, her fingertips dug into her hand palm, stomping back to her house, likely breaking one of those incredibly gross, extremely long pink nails. Hilariously enough, her deflated husband immediately follows her, pretty much like a little obedient shadow.